Senate will come to order. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Convening roll call, Day 8, Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. Anderson? Here. Barlow? Present. Boner? Here. Brennan? Here. Case? Present. Cooper? Crago? Here. Crum? Docksetter? Driscoll? Here. French? Here. Garou? Here. Hicks? Here. Hutchings? Here. Ide? Here. Jones? Here. Kolb? Present. Landon? Here. Larson? Here. Love? Here. McEwen? Here. Nethercott? Here. Olson? Here. Pappas? Here. Pearson? Here. Rothfuss? Here. Salazar? Here. Schuler? Here. Scott? Here. Steinmetz? Here. Cooper?
Excused.
Excused. Beitman?
Here.
Yep. 30 here, 1 excused.
Thank you. Prayer today by our good friend, retired Reverend Richard Gilbert.
As we approach midweek, may we be anything but weak. Our strength comes from the Lord, and so we humbly and honestly approach our Heavenly Father for restoration of bodily endurance, mental comprehension, and faithful service, and so we pray. Everlasting and ever-enabling God, your servant Millward L. Simpson in 1957 believed Wyoming's problems never seemed to yield to final settlement, and nor do our prayers, however humbly and honestly prayed, seem to find final solution to life's issues. And so daily, we ask of you, creative and caring God, for insight and foresight, for energy and endurance in addressing Wyoming's ever-changing and elusive legislation. Governor Simpson shared his father's wit by telling how to become a sure failure. Try to please everybody. Enabling God, equip this 2026 legislature, both House and Senate, be as Simpson suggested, to be a good and honest representative government to meet the needs of today and the opportunities envisioned for tomorrow. So we honestly pray. Amen.
Amen. Senator Pappas, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the reading clerk please read the Journal Committee report?
Mr. President, the Journal Committee reports that the Journal of Tuesday, February 17th, 2026 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Senator Crum, Chairman.
Are there any objections? There being none, the report is adopted. We have a PA of the day. Oh, an old friend of ours, Jennifer Frary, is back from Casper. And we were going to have a PA of the day. An old friend of ours emailed me I think this morning, and said couldn't make it from his neck of the woods. I think you all know him, Mr. Fred Baldwin. So Fred, if you're watching today, we love you. We wish you could have been here, and we miss you, brother. And thanks for thinking about us. And hopefully you can be our PA of the day sometime while we're in session. The invite stands. So today in Wyoming history, on this date in 1943, Ron Kosicki, Omelet Man, was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Where is old Ron? I don't see him. He's up the stairs. There he is. Let's give a big hand for Ron, the Omelet Man. Andy, thank you for keeping watch all these years up there and keeping us safe. Quote for the day in 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on. Robert Frost. All right, the joke of the day. Why did the person buy a smaller bus? Because it was easy to throw their coworkers under it. From Kelly. Where's my Kelly? I see her that back there. A little back and forth from yesterday. We're even now. Love you, Kelly. Announcements. Pink Ribbon Day. Wyoming Breast Cancer Awareness Day is today. And members of the Senate, today we welcome representatives of the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative who will provide an update on their efforts to raise awareness and expand breast cancer prevention across Wyoming. Please help me welcome their team, Karen Rossetti and Stacy Buckholz. Please welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. Good morning. My name is Karen Rossetti, and I stand here today as the former president of the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative. I am honored to serve alongside my fellow board members, and I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible survivors and warriors in this room, as well as those of you who have been through this journey with a loved one. Can you please stand? Your strength is the heartbeat of everything we do. Today, I want to share a story with you that is deeply personal to me, and it is the reason I stand before you today, committed to the fight against breast cancer. My own family's journey with this disease began 15 years ago when my mother received her diagnosis. It was a terrifying time for all of us, but I'm so happy to report that her Wyoming strength and spirit prevailed, and she has been cancer-free since 2012. Thanks. 5 years ago, I found myself faced with my own journey. Hearing those words, "You have breast cancer," is an experience that changes everything. I'm grateful to share that I completed my treatments and have been cancer-free ever since. But beyond my own health, my story is a testament to one critical action: screening. I know firsthand how important screenings can be because my cancer was found on my very first mammogram. That moment of early detection made all the difference in my outcome. My mother's experience and mine have given me a unique perspective, and it is a tremendous honor to be in a position to give back. This is why I am so dedicated to the mission of the Wyoming Breast Cancer. I am dedicated to using my voice and my experience to bridge the gap between Wyoming residents and the life screenings they deserve. The resources provided by the initiative are just not options. They are essential tools in our fight, and I am committed to ensuring that they reach every corner of our state. Every dollar raised here in Wyoming stays in Wyoming. For the past 10 years, WBCI has funded more than 1,500 screenings and diagnostic tests, over 6,000 clinical breast exams, and supported thousands of patients through counseling, navigation, and survivorship services. The Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative serves your constituents across this great state. In 2025, the initiative served 21 counties. Our goal is to reach all counties in Wyoming. Please continue to share our information widely to help other Wyoming residents who may need our services. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for all you do for our state, and thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. Okay. Tomorrow is the last day for bills to be reported out of committee and House of Origin and Budget Bill third reading. Possibly. Okay. Bills on second reading. Can't see the number. Senate File 19, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 19, epinephrine delivery methods, sponsored by Senator Rothfuss.
Senate File 19, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 23, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 23, outpatient examination and commitment length, sponsored by Senator Schuler.
Senate File 23, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 41, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 41, portable benefit account, sponsored by Senator Olson.
Senate File 41, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 48, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 48, Stem Cell Freedom Act, sponsored by Senator Barlow.
Senate File 48, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 53, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 53, Keeping Amateurism in High School Athletics, sponsored by Senator Crum.
Senate File 53, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 61, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 61, Motor Vehicle Sales to Family Members Not Taxable, sponsored by Senator Jones.
Senate File 61, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 101, second reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 101, Second Amendment Protection Act Amendments 3, sponsored by Senator Beitman.
There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
Senate File 101, second reading, amendment number 1, page 5, line 12.
You've heard the reading of the amendment. We'll pause for just a moment for the president to get situated. You've heard the reading of the amendment. What's your pleasure, President Beitman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that second reading amendment number 1, Senate File 101, and ask for your aye vote. Sorry, it's been a busy morning. Trying to get everything rolling here. So yesterday, I talked about on Committee of the Whole, that paragraph I on page 5, lines 14 through 19, and how we needed to cut and paste that out of there, put it over into page 7. So what we did with working with the good LSO attorneys, came up with a more craftier way of putting it in there under the paragraph D on page 6. That paragraph D talks about, it's basically the employment section of the bill. As you remember from yesterday, we talked about situations where you could have something we consider like a badge swapping situation where a local police department could loan out an officer to the feds to implement gun control laws and then come back and assume their duties back at the police department. Kind of a loophole. So this amendment fixes that and provides that an interested party may bring a civil action to enforce the provisions of this section. So this paragraph C on page 4 deals with specifically crimes against the law-abiding citizen. Whereas, like, imagine that they're kicking down your door and taking your gun, right? You obviously have a cause of action. That's what C takes care of. There's already provision for that in there. This language made it confusing on the original draft. So by moving it to where we're moving it now on this amendment, clears all that up for you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amendment? Discussion on second reading amendment number 1, Senate File 101. Senator Scott.
Mr. Acting President, I have a question about the provision on lines 25 and 26, where it says sovereign immunity shall not be an affirmative defense in an action brought under this section. I'm not quite sure I understand what that means and what its practical implications are. And I'm really rise to ask the sponsor and particularly any of the attorneys, real attorneys in the body, what that sentence really means, because I am uncertain about it, Mr.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Further discussion on second reading amendment number 1? I see some consultations happening with attorneys in the room. Senator Olson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we're just trying to figure out if we are the real attorneys or, or we fall outside or inside of that. So that's under debate.
As the debate turns. I see a tentative rising in the back of the room, but not yet acknowledging they want to be recognized. Senator Nethercott.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just a reminder of who you recognize who the attorneys are in the rooms. Can't be cherry picking those opinions. No, just kidding. Listen, these gun bills that try to discuss sovereign immunity are tortured at best. I have learned to not provide any guiding wisdom on them for the last 10 years and will not do so now. But this is one of the other bills that we've seen in recent years where I think there's been at least 30 pieces of legislation repealing and adding to exceptions of governmental immunity. And so where that sits in our law is in quite a state of disarray. And in this particular type of bill draft, you're dealing with two separate types of immunity: federal, state, local. The drafters of these legislation, they choose to do what they do. They know best, recognizing they passed this legislation in all the states. And so I leave that to their discretion for what type of protections they feel their membership desires. But it is tortured at best. So my legal advice is maybe, it depends, which is a classic lawyer answer.
Thank you very much. Further discussion on the amendment. Further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Hicks?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask a question that would relate to my colleague from Bates Creek. And the question would be is if you're a real attorney and you're still practicing, does that make you a real attorney? Because my understanding is they practice the law. So just would ask for some clarification on that point.
I see no one rising to attempt to answer that. I do see the sponsors. Any other further discussion before the sponsor? Further discussion before the sponsor? We're on second reading, so I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. Mr. President.
Thank you. The way I interpret it to the good senator from Bates Creek, the sovereign immunity deals with the agency, qualified deals with the cops. If you don't have this in there, and if the agency violates the law, I'm afraid that the individual bringing action will get stalled in court because the agency will declare sovereign immunity. You won't have standing and you don't have any justice. So that's why that's in there. And I think that was it. Did I miss anything? That was it. Okay, vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, we are voting on Senate second reading amendment number 1, Senate File 101. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Second reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 101 is passed. Second reading. Senate File 101, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered.
Nope, you're good. Okay, bills on third reading and final passage. Oh, look at this consent list. Madam Majority Floor Leader, we're on that order of business and consider, or no, do you have a consent list for us?
I do, Mr. President. We did some serious work here, senators, yesterday, and so we have quite a consent list. And Mr. President, I move third reading consent list, which is as follows. Senate File 4, Medicaid rate increase EMS services. Senate File 9, fentanyl to minors enhanced penalty. Senate File 12, Wyoming National Guard re-enlistment bonus program. Senate File 13, Wyoming National Guard member referral amendments. Senate File 36, Hathaway lump sum merit scholarship. Senate File 45, local approval for simulcasting. Senate File 47, increase of Hathaway scholarship awards. Senate File 52, 2026 large project funding. Senate File 58, Wyoming Indian Child Welfare Act sunset repeal. Senate File 79, sales and use tax reorganization. Senate File 82, duties of registered agents amendments.
Thank you, Madam Majority Floor Leader. Would anybody like any of these bills removed from the consent list? Senator Scott.
Mr. President, Senate File 82, duties of registered agents amendments.
Okay. Anyone else? Senator Case.
Mr. President, I'm just double checking. 911 funding was not on the consent list, correct? There's
Correct.
a recent amendment. Thank you.
Correct. Anybody else wish to have any bills removed from the consent list? Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just looking here, wasn't following along real close, but I've got an amendment for Senate File 70. Is that on this consent list?
No, sir.
Okay, it is?
It's not on the consent
Okay.
list.
I think I'm good then, thank you. Oh, yeah, it's on second reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the Senate? Senate File 4, Medicaid rate increase EMS services. Senate File 9, fentanyl to minors, enhanced penalty. Senate File 12, Wyoming National Guard re-enlistment bonus program. Senate File 13, Wyoming National Guard member referral amendments. Senate File 36, Hathaway lump sum merit scholarship. Senate File 45, local approval for simulcasting. Senate File 47, increase of Hathaway scholarship awards. Senate File 52, 2026 large project funding. Senate File 58, Wyoming Indian Child Welfare Act sunset repeal. And Senate File 79, Sales and Use Tax Reorganization. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
On the consent list, Anderson? Barlow? Boner? Brennan? Case? Cooper excused. Crago? Crum? Dockstetter? Driscoll? French? Guru? Hicks? Hutchings? Ide? Jones? Cole? Landon? Larson? Love? McEwen? Nethercott? Olson? Pappas? Pearson? Rothfuss? Salazar? Schuler? Scott? Steinmetz? President Beitman?
Aye.
On the consent list, 30 aye, 1 excused. Senate File 4, are there any changes? Closing vote. Aye. Aye to no. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 4, 29 aye, 1 no, 1 excused. Senate File 9, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 9, 30 aye, 1 excused. Senate File 12, are there any changes? Case, aye to no. Ide, aye to no. Hutchings, aye to no. Pearson, aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 12, 26 aye, 4 no, 1 excused. Senate File 13, are there any changes? Case, aye to no. Ide, aye to no. McEwen? Aye to no. Pearson? Steinmetz? Aye to no. Larson? Aye to no. Cole? Aye to no. Hutchings? Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 13, 22 aye, 8 no, 1 excused. Senate File 36, are there any changes? Case, aye to no. Steinmetz, aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 36, 28 aye, 2 no, 1 excused. Senate File 45, are there any changes? Ide? Aye to no. McEwen? Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 45, 28 aye, 2 no, 1 excused. Senate File 47, are there any changes? Hicks, aye to no. Ide? Aye to no. McEwen? Aye to no. Cole? Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 47, 26 aye, 4 no, 1 excused. Senate File 52, are there any changes? Scott? No. Scott, aye to no. Ide? Aye to no. McEwen? Aye to no. Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 52, 27 aye, 3 no, 1 excused. Senate File 58, are there any changes? Ide? Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 58, 29 aye, 1 no, 1 excused. And Senate File 79, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 79, 30 aye, 1 excused.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, Senate File 4, Medicaid Rate Increase EMS Services. Senate File 9, Fentanyl to Minors Enhanced Penalty. Senate File 12, Wyoming National Guard Reenlistment Bonus Program. Senate File 13, Wyoming National Guard Member Referral Amendments. Senate File 36, Hathaway Lump Sum Merit Scholarship. Senate File 45, Local Approval for Simulcasting. Senate File 47, Increase of Hathaway Scholarship Awards. Senate File 52, 2026 Large Project Funding. Senate File 58, Wyoming Indian Child Welfare Act Sunset Repeal. And Senate File 79, Sales and Use Tax Reorganization have passed the Senate. Bills on third reading. Senate File 14, third reading of the Senate File.
Senate File 14, Literacy Position for K-3 Reading Program, an act relating to the authorization of a full-time position for the Department of Education, sponsored by Education.
Thank you. There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
Senate File 14, third reading, Amendment Number 1, page 3, after line 8.
Thank you. Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Without objection, I would withdraw third reading Amendment Number 1 to Senate File 14.
Hearing no objection, third reading Amendment Number 1 to Senate File 14 has been withdrawn. We're back on the bill. Discussion on the bill? Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall Senate File 14 pass the Senate? Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Third reading roll call, Senate File 14. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper excused. Crago? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Aye. No. Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? No. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. Senate File 14, 28 aye, 2 no, 1 excused.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, Senate File 14 has passed the Senate. Senator Salazar, do you have the privilege of the floor before?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you so much. Honorable members, Teen PAC leadership is in the Senate today. I wanted to recognize Ms. Presley Bray, who is part of the Teen PAC leadership schools. As you know, they come every year. They're in a 4-day class now, and it's for students ages 13 through 19, designed to give students the ultimate hands-on crash course in state government. By spending 4 days at the Capitol, Teen PAC students get a glimpse of what goes on beyond the marble steps as they learn leadership skills. And while some groups only see the statues and paintings when they come to the Capitol, these students want to build relationships with the people who actually influence public policy. And by the way, Mr. President, you may see some of these students praying in the Capitol as well. If we could give a Senate welcome to Teen PAC this year. Thank you.
All right. Welcome to the Senate. It's always good to see Teen PAC around these halls. They're good kids. Madam Majority Floor Leader,
Privilege of the floor.
floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good senators, we are so fortunate to have with us this morning the amazing students of McCormick 8th Grade's Frontier Corps, accompanied by their student, Miss McNamee, and also accompanied with the most brilliant lawyer in all of Wyoming, my colleague at Crowley Fleck, the one and only Lindsay Wozniak, accompanying her daughter here on a school trip. If you could welcome them to the Senate.
Welcome to the Senate. Senator Case.
Mr. President, I'm going to try to get us to lay back a bill, the 911 funding, and so we don't need to read the amendment in if I'm successful in asking you to lay it back.
Okay, sounds good. We're trying to stall right now, if you
Oh, I
haven't
can
noticed,
do that.
because we're having some computer issues.
Yeah.
And some of you that rely on the electronic amendments aren't able to access those right now. So I'll filibuster. You can filibuster if you want to, sir, and talk about baseball if you want, or we can do this 911 funding bill.
Well, Mr. President, since we don't need the amendment, because my intention is to lay that bill back, and I'll work out an amendment with my colleagues. So we don't actually have to do the amendment. You don't have to look at the amendment. I would hope that you would support us in laying the bill back for 1 day, after it's read in.
Okay, let's read it in, and I'll call on you in just a second. Senate File 32, third reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 32, 911 funding, an act relating to emergency telephone service sponsored by corporations.
Thank you. Senator Case.
Mr. President, I would ask that Senate File 32, 911 funding be laid back for 1 day.
Thank you. Absent objection, Senate File 32 is laid back for 1 day. Senate will stand at ease till the sound of the gavel. Senate will come back to order. Got the computers working again. Everybody's got hard copies of the amendments, so we're doubly covered. Senate File 70, third reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 70, Omnibus Water Bill Construction, an act relating to water development projects sponsored by Water.
Thank you. There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
Senate File 70, third reading, Amendment Number 1, page 4, lines 9 through 20.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment goes to the omnibus water bill, kind of our old friend, the cloud seeding. That we've done a lot for, actually. We got rid of the funding. We got rid of the aerial part of it. And the funding's still there effectively for other users of the basin if they want to use Wyoming on a ground-based basis. And what this amendment does is just eliminates that completely out of the bill, Senate File 70, pages 4 and 5. There's a couple of paragraphs there, but I'm kind of in the anti-cloud seeding caucus, as we referenced it in the years past. And, it's just, to me, it's a slippery slope to, broader atmospheric, manipulation. And I think we're trying to play God with nature here. And I think that's not a good thing here. And the bottom line on this, I think it violates property rights as well. I mean, it could benefit one person at the expense of others. I haven't seen any real data on how you control where you're going to drop that snow or rain. So I encourage your no vote on this, or your aye vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Hey, Senator Ide, before you...
I'm so used to no.
Senator Ide, before you sit down, could you move third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 70 for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I should have got that out first. I was so excited here to get this amendment. I move third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 70 and ask for your aye vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Discussion on the amendment. Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually encourage a no vote on this one. You talk about slippery slopes. The slope is moving in the bringing of the amendments direction where we used to fund this program. We no longer do that. So no state of Wyoming dollars are going towards this program. We heard quite a bit about this in Select Water, and we know it's a topic of conversation. We know it's controversial in some quarters. The reality is that it's likely that this does have a positive impact on our snowpack. It doesn't necessarily, I think we heard a few days ago, doesn't necessarily just create snow out of thin air. Literally, it augments what's currently happening in the atmosphere. And I think that's something that we're accustomed to as human beings. I mean, if we're not going to play God, why do we have irrigation districts? Why do we build dams? Why do we do anything? So I think that this is prudent to keep this one in here. It's no cost to the state. We have acknowledged the concerns to a certain extent and that we're not paying for it. But, and especially in the Colorado River Basin, I think we need every tool at our disposal. And more importantly, I think it's important that we contribute to, as other basin states are contributing, to every possible solution. Even if you're not convinced on the science as to the efficacy of this particular activity, I'd say that the jury's still out, in my personal opinion. And so long as we're not paying for it, why wouldn't we at least allow for this tool in the toolbox? So against the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Boner. Senator Driscoll.
Mr. President, thank you. Adding on to that, I encourage very strongly a no vote. Colorado Basin is about to go into regulation by the feds. And I've been to a number of these meetings. I've been to our Select Water. Whether it works or doesn't work is irrelevant. We can argue that. The evidence is that probably it does have some effect. But what it really does have an effect on is how we're treated within the Colorado Basin states as far as our actions trying to come up to solutions on this. And the more we do non-solutions, the more likely are the states downstream and the federal government is to treat us as a non-participant. And they have the ability at this point, we've already found it. Folks, we tried 10 years ago to maintain 288,000 acre feet of water that was allocated to Wyoming under the compact. That's all gone today. And you can expect further erosion of Wyoming's rights if we are a non-participant in actions on the Colorado River. Doesn't just affect ag irrigation water. I'm looking across, it affects probably a third of the population of Wyoming's water comes out of that basin in various forms. This town we're standing in right here, if they start doing restrictions on it, it affects water supplies for our towns, not just irrigation water. It's also the future of Wyoming. I encourage you to reject this. We need to do what we can to be our part of the solution on the Colorado River.
Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am going to be an aye vote on this amendment. And I thank my colleague for bringing it. I have constituents in this area that have these ground-based units near their property, and they don't want it anymore. So I will be an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hutchings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the amendment, on and for it, I'm probably going to say something controversial, but it's in my heart to say it. I believe God is the one who provides rain. And one thing that's the cheapest thing we could do to get rain here is to call on God and ask him to bring rain to our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Anderson's next.
Mr. President, if we need proof that cloud seeding works, we can look at 25-26. We quit cloud seeding and we haven't had any moisture since. So we can use that evidence. Thank you.
Senator. Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think we've seen an evolution of this cloud seeding story from aerial cloud seeding to ground-based cloud seeding. And I've never been a fan of cloud seeding, especially aerial, and that's gone now. So we've moved a long way. It's come to the point where now we're saying, well, if other entities want to fund this, we're all right with it. I don't believe we're manipulating the weather. I think there's a lot of good reasons for doing what we're doing currently with the way it's proposed. I think this is a step too far, to be clear, on and against the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Kolb. Senator Pearson for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. On another note, if we need proof that it doesn't work, look at how much money our nearby state has put into that this last year, and we still have a drought. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pearson. Anybody else? Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would be remiss, and just as a creature of habit and in a reminder, just so it becomes, there's some comfort in the familiarity of me talking about the folks of Southeast Wyoming whose property insurance continues to rise dramatically as a result of hail damage. And so I first learned, when I first moved to Laramie County, it was the first time I ever was afraid of the weather. And I'm a fifth-generation Wyomingite, because we have some serious storms here that are frightening. And the size of that hail is God-inspiring to my other senator of Laramie County. And so I learned very quickly in conversations with my business community and with my agricultural community here in Laramie County that they do support cloud seeding because it is scientifically proven to reduce the size of hail. And so that affects everyone from crops to residential property owners who produce no crops but are becoming outpriced in their affordability in their homes due to those increasing costs. A point of message to our constituents that some of their increased mortgage costs have to do with increased property taxes, but more than likely has to do with increased property insurance rates as a result of our just about annually devastating hail damage impacts. It is common for every summer for the city to be inundated with roof repairers who are doing full roof replacements as a result of that devastating hail damage. So just as a reminder, there are many different uses for this science and science-related impacts that go beyond some of the some of the fears and are verifiable in some of the insurance claims, which you can always look at the insurance claims to see whether or not the science is working or the activity is working, because just follow that money. So as a reminder, I agree with the senator from Converse, and I think I've been quoted in other articles that man has been manipulating water and its diversion for thousands of years, and it has been required for our survival. And I think we can continue to do this responsibly and recognize that additional science is important, and understanding how it can reduce our property damage impacts, our crop impacts, and protect our source of life, water. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further discussion? Before the sponsor, Senator Ide, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Like all the comments in here, I'll just go right back and be short. There again, to me, it's a property rights issue. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul potentially with precipitation. And I don't think we should go there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 70. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The amendment has failed. Anybody want a division or division being called? All those in favor stand up. Seven. All those opposed? More than 7. Third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 70 has failed. We're back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Seeing none. Senate File 70 having been read 3 separate times. The question is, shall the bill pass the Senate? The chief clerk will please call the roll.
Third reading roll call, Senate File 70. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper excused. Crago? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? No. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kolb? Aye. Landon? No. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 70. 26 aye, 4 no, 1 excused.
Senate File 70, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, Senate File 70, Omnibus Water Bill Construction has passed the Senate. File 82, third reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 82, Duties of Registered Agents Amendments, sponsored by Senator Crago.
Discussion on the bill. Senator Scott.
Mr. President, I think we better pause here and think about what we're doing, because we are here playing with a significant revenue source for the state of Wyoming, significant source of new businesses as we attract incorporations from all around the country. As I understand the bill, what it's doing is going to ask the registered agent to get names and addresses of each domestic entity's owners, including partnership shareholders, et cetera. And then there's a couple of exceptions. So, as I understand it, for somebody that's coming in and incorporating here in Wyoming, you're now going to have to provide your registered agent with a list of the shareholders. And the registered agent will maintain those, so essentially there'll be a database at each registered agent. And for those databases to be of any use, to be of accuracy, you're going to need two things. First, you're going to need some sanction in case they're in error, and I think if there's nefarious purposes, they're likely to be in error. And then you're going to need to have the database actually being used every now and then, so that you find the honest mistakes that creep in. Because my experience, you get a database that's not used, you might as well forget it. The information is just not going to be accurate. And I think this fails both of those tests. I think the practical effect of what you're doing is you're putting an extra burden on incorporating in Wyoming, and a lot of people would just soon keep their business dealings reasonably private. It's, you don't go boasting about or talking about your exact net worth and all that sort of thing, and that's what's involved here. So I think it'll be a strike against using Wyoming as a state of incorporation. And frankly, I don't think we're going to get anything useful out of it, because I don't think the information is going to be reliable at all. So under those circumstances, Mr. Chairman, frankly, I think we're better off looking for a different solution to this problem and doing without this particular bill.
Anybody else? Senator Crago.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, a couple things. One, the bill is not actually about privacy. And I say that for a couple reasons. One, all of the information that would be required by this particular bill is held only by the registered agent. Only by the registered agent. Only can be requested by one entity, and that is the Secretary of State's office. And that has to be done pursuant to a lawful investigation. Then that information, if it happens to make it, Mr. President, to the hands of the Secretary of State, can only be released pursuant to a lawful subpoena or pursuant to criminal investigation by local law enforcement. So we're not asking the companies to put their information out there in the world. It's not going to be on any of our government websites. It's not going to be something readily accessible by the general public. It's going to be held by one group, and that is the registered agents. And most people who have hired a registered agent have an agreement. Actually, they're required to have an agreement with the registered agent. The confidentiality provisions are typically built right into that agreement. Really what we're talking about is trying to curb some of the criminal activities that are occurring around the state and in note in our county back home, Mr. President. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I do admit to the good senator from Bates Creek, this isn't the end-all solution. As I stated on first reading, I think we need to go further. I think we need to push this bill down the hall. I'm willing to continue to work on this issue down the hall. And if we can find some additional safeguards to build into there, I'm happy to do it. I probably would have been working harder on that the last couple of days had I not felt so well, Mr. President. But I'm happy to do that down there. I'm happy to, and if we have additional testimony about how this is terrible from the public, I'm willing to do something about that too. We did not hear that. In committee, we really had no pushback to what we're trying to do here. But I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to work with folks, and I think, no matter what happens with this bill, even if it passes, I think, Mr. President, we continue to work on this in the interim, and we do an even better job. There's some technologies out there. I've talked to a couple of our good senators in this room about how other states are handling this. I think we examine that, but that's going to take time, that's going to take equipment, and that's going to take money. And in the meantime, I'd like to do something about the problem plaguing so many of our people around the state, including our local government entities and our chambers back home who are dealing with this issue. And so, I'd ask for an aye vote. Let's continue to work the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Crago. Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I share the concerns of the good tall senator from Natrona County on this legislation, and I do fully support the intent, but when we think through how this bill would work, what effect it might have, there really are two sides to take a look at. One is the interest of the good actor, and one is the prevention of the bad actor. Right? The interest of the good actor, and one of the reasons why we're now up to around $60 million a year, I got some updated figures, we're around $60 million a year in revenue, is because we do provide sound privacy protection among the many features of our state. And we're known for that, Mr. President. We're known for having top-notch, best-in-class privacy available. Regrettably, Mr. President, with top-notch, best-in-class privacy available, you also do get fraud, where privacy can be handy for fraud. We know there's always trade-off between privacy and law enforcement's capacity, because if you have strong privacy, it makes it often harder to enforce some of these laws. So that's the trade-off. So we look at this legislation, and I am very concerned that it will decrease privacy, and that it will be perceived as decreasing privacy. And while, as my good friend pointed out, only one office, the Secretary of State's office, would have direct access to this information from the registered agent if they make a request, the information is still out there and it's being held. It's required to be held, and that alone would be a concern when entities are looking for where they want to register. We would go from being one of the most protective to actually one of the most restrictive states in terms of what we're requiring. It's a big difference, because most of the states, candidly, just don't have a lot going on. So it's easy to make that step. At the same time, I don't see that the bad actors would change their practice. I would expect them to still lie successfully in all circumstances. So good actors would be asked to provide candid information about their ownership to their registered agent, information that could be requested by our Secretary of State, an office that does have a history of disclosing to the federal government information upon request, even if there is a confidentiality provision in statute that explicitly precludes that release. So we know that takes place and has taken place against the confidentiality. So that would be of concern to a registrant. But again, going back to the bad actor, I don't know that the bad actor is going to be very concerned, because they're going to provide false information, and nothing in this bill provides a mechanism or an impetus for the registered agent to get actual factual information, to have it be accurate. We don't have a statewide mechanism. The registered agents wouldn't necessarily. They might even be concerned that they would lose money if they were too diligent in trying to determine whether it's factual or not. So at the end of the day, bad actors are going to keep being bad actors with zero change on fraud, but good actors might look at the state of Wyoming at this point in time moving forward and say, yeah, I think I'll choose a different state. Let me look on to one of those states to the west. And that's exactly what we don't want. We don't want to be threatening the $60 million in revenue that we bring into the state every year because of what we have achieved already. To me, Mr. President, it's more appropriate for us to not implement and then hope that it doesn't turn out badly, but to really look into this, to move it to the interim now, to be responsible as the Senate, to not move this forward, and to give it more thought. I don't want to put my hope in the folks on the other side of the building with an expectation that they fix this problem. I don't think that's sufficient, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I I want to back up just a little bit because I don't know if the body has this information. I don't know that we fully discussed it, but I want everyone to think about 17-28-107. This is the duties of a registered agent. So let's think about what the registered agent already has to maintain. They have to maintain an address of record for service of process of an actual person that is part of the LLC that they've entered into an agreement with. So that's one. And then this one, very important, they have to maintain the name and address of each entity's directors, officers, and the LLC's managers, the LLC's managing partners, the trustees, and persons serving in any similar capacity. The registered agent already has to maintain this large list of information about who is running the LLC, All this bill does is take it one step further, a small step, honestly, to say you already have to maintain all of the directors, trustees, presidents, vice presidents, managing members. Now we just want you to give us a list of the members, the owners, and maintain an address for those individuals as well. So I don't think that the $60 million that our state brings in LLC money is going to come crashing down because we're taking one small step further. It's very important to understand that registered agents already have a pretty big duty, and they already maintain a lot of information about the people that they contract with. And guess what hasn't happened? I haven't heard of the Secretary of State subpoenaing all of that information and releasing all that information to the federal government or to public individuals. It hasn't happened since the creation of this statute. So we've already had a lot of confidential information that has to be shared between a company and a registered agent. This takes it one step further. So I don't see it as a huge departure from the existing Wyoming law. I see it as a small step, but a very important small step to guard against fraud in the state of Wyoming. Yes, we want to be open to business. And yes, there are a lot of people who want to create LLCs in the state of Wyoming because they believe wholeheartedly that they want anonymity in their business. But the reality is you cannot have complete anonymity, and it is not in the best interest of the state of Wyoming to allow for complete anonymity. We have to protect our state's reputation against fraudsters, and that's what this bill does. So I urge you to move it forward. Does it need more work? I think it possibly could. And at the end of the day, should this be studied as an interim topic? Absolutely. I've seen the Corporations Committee take this up before. I think it can take it up and go a step further and continue to work on it, but I ask you to move this bill forward.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, good comments here, both sides of the room from over the hill and Bates Creek. I agree with their sentiments on this. I think, maybe it is a small thing, but it is an erosion of privacy. It's pure and simple. I mean, as little as it is, I think we try to do as much as we can to be business friendly here. And, you used to hear the old days, the Swiss bank accounts. I mean, they kind of put their spot on the map of, really the best place to have that anonymity if that's important to you. So I'm on and against the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On and for the bill. I think we're trying to balance something here about being open for business and not open to, frankly, I can say it, the Nazis depositing money into an account, which is what happened in the aforementioned situation with my colleague. We're not about that. We're about being fair. We're about being open. We're taking steps to mitigate this problem because it has become a problem. I don't want people to think we're closed for business, but on the other hand, I don't want nefarious actors coming to our state because they think they can get away with things. I think that's not in our best interest. I think it's a fair, metered approach that may need more work in the future, but we have to start addressing this. If we don't, this problem will only get worse. On and for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Crum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am for the bill, and here's why I'm for the bill. This is a business-friendly bill. This is an anti-crime bill. It is a business-friendly bill. We do business. We do it appropriately in the state of Wyoming. We're open for people to come here and do business, but we're not for fraud and we're not for crime. So I'm for this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and for the bill. We can't be so business-friendly that we expose our citizens to fraud and abuse in our state. There are citizens whose addresses have been stolen, whose identities have been compromised because of this. And so we can't be so concerned about the business's privacy that we abandon our own citizens. And so I think this is an important first step in getting a handle on the situation that many people across the state are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Case.
Mr. President, I appreciate the discussion here, and I realize how we're struggling with this, Mr. President, and I realize the importance of Wyoming's corporate laws and our position in the corporate world. We've worked very, very hard to have good corporate laws. Tall Senator from Natrona County, first LLCs in the country. He was part of that. It was Wyoming's LLC law that was first approved by the IRS and became kind of the opening of our progress in this area. He had a lot to do with that. We've revised our corporate laws to try to keep them current. We've worked hard at it over the years. We created a chancery court. You know, that's a big undertaking for a small state to have a chancery court. We have enormous amount of use of our corporate tools to form business entities and do business. It's amazing. It's quite the success story. But there's the dark side, Mr. President. I'm looking at an application for a limited liability company, looking at their articles of organization. They have, I won't use any proper names, but they have their name listed, and then they list their registered agent. Their registered agent is listed as a woman that's a constituent of mine. I've known the family for as long as I can remember. She's not their registered agent. She's in their 80s. She's in her 80s. They're just using her address. They have picked her address in Lander to be the registered agent. So they're avoiding actually revealing their registered agent. That's wrong there, right? They list their address of business in another state. There are others that list their place of business for people that have never heard of this. In my community, my property that I own through a corporation was listed as the address of a person incorporating in Wyoming. Do we want that? It is not worth it. It is not worth it to facilitate fraud if we can easily be, or perhaps, I don't know, maybe in the least restrictive manner, try to prevent fraud and try to give tools. There will always be fraud, I suspect, Mr. President, and I know you know that. But if you add one more thing where you actually have to lie to a registered agent, then that will deter some people. Now, you know, these companies, they probably change corporate entities frequently. Put up a bad company, do business, that one starts to get a little heat, make another one, make another one, make another one. Maybe we'll never catch up with that. But this is a small step. And yes, we can work on it more with our interim work. And Mr. President, we need to flat out raise our fees. We had a big argument about being the lowest fees in the country and how we might compare to a state to the east of us or a state, a really sandy state next to California, Mr. President. Next to that big state by the ocean, Mr. President. Anyway, we should look at those fees. We should look at this bill. We should do that during the interim. But in the meantime, we should pass this bill and take a stand. Take a stand for, if nothing else, for this 80-year-old lady. I can't tell you how upset she was when she thought everybody was after her because she had some business, and she couldn't figure it out. It also happened to another friend of mine. It's not uncommon. I bet I can name 10 people in my community who have had this fraud perpetrated on them. They're not trying to steal anything from them, but it's disturbing to them. And it's disturbing to Wyoming's reputation across this nation, and it should be disturbing to the rest of the corporate actors that want to use our laws to do legitimate business and further commerce in this great country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Case. Senator Scott, back to you for your second time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for my second time. If I thought this bill was going to do anything to reduce the level of fraud in some of our filings, to help us get at some of the bad actors, I would be supporting this bill. But, Mr. President, I don't think this bill is going to do anything at all to help us reduce the level of fraud. What's going to happen is the people that are doing that are just going to provide false information to a registered agent. And the testimony we're hearing is we aren't even enforcing the provisions that they have a real registered agent. Maybe that's the place we ought to go. Yeah. That a company is found claiming a fraudulent registered agent, as we just heard. You don't solve that by putting more requirements on what a registered agent does. Even the requirements we've got today, the fraudsters are beating it. Mr. President, what this bill does, and the only thing it does, is jeopardize our standing in terms of the ability to bring in the honest business that we're getting now, that we are getting in part because one of the states a little west of us really listened to some of these pleas and raised their fees. And we picked up an awful lot of business because of it. Mr. President, think what we're doing here. How is this bill going to reduce the level, and there is a level of fraud. How is this bill going to reduce it? I submit to you it is not going to reduce it at all.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Who's next? Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's a great conversation for the Senate and the state of Wyoming to be having. I appreciate the bringer of the bill. As we've known for years, since the inception of our LLC statutes in 1977 by a good senator from, I believe, Sheridan County, who created that entity first in the world, with anonymity protections with it since that time, we have become the place to do business, or at least to register, right? And that does bring us money, and it does bring us an unknown amount of bad actors that aren't necessarily doing bad acts in our state, but they're using our corporate shield as a mechanism to harm others, for sure. The level and extent of that is unknown. Again, as I mentioned to you before, I think the only way that we have any information about how much land our foreign adversaries may or may not own is as a result of, you know, countries with big maple leaves not hiding that and clearly identifying that those corporations that own ag land and other types of land actually are the owners of that land. But if you think that our foreign adversaries don't actually own land in our state and in the United States through corporate shields located in Wyoming and elsewhere, I think that's wholly naive. This bill will do nothing of the sort to prevent that. Concerning the people in Wyoming who are hurting, and concerning the good constituents in Fremont County, this bill does nothing to help them. If you'd like to bring a bill next year or look for an amendment, you'd want to look at 1728-105. And that does deal with registered agents. And the only way to be a commercial registered agent is to have 10 or more. Otherwise, you don't need a commercial registered agent, which is why so many of you who have created LLCs are able to be your own registered agent. And so those addresses being used or being utilized by fraudsters and scammers from all across the country and the world, no less, that are using that less than 10 limitation to use addresses fictitiously to create false entities using a legitimate but not authorized address in the state of Wyoming to create a registered agent. That's the way to solve that issue. 1728-105 is to reduce that down from 10 to 2. And so if you have more than one LLC, you might have to pay for a commercial agent and pump up that $100 for that annual service. On another piece, though, we need to ask ourselves, what are the roles of commercial agents in Wyoming and in the country? These are private people who decide to become commercial registered agents. They can be anybody. They just can't be convicted of a felony. But there's really no other requirements associated with them. And so I think for those commercial registered agents across our state, where we continue to analyze this, what is the role we want for them? What are the legal obligations we want for them? And should that be a government function, or should that continue to be this private entity function if you really want transparency? So those are I think, solutions to get to some of the concerns that we're thinking about. Again, I support the bill because I support driving this narrative for how Wyoming is ready to start balancing anonymity with fraud and other bad actors, and that conversation needs to be occurring. But this bill will not accomplish that, but the conversation is critical to the people of Wyoming and to the country, quite frankly. So I'm an aye vote to keep the conversation going, but I think the bill does just simply require more onerous requirements on the good actors, will do nothing to prevent the bad actors, and does absolutely nothing for those poor people hurting across the state whose addresses are being used as part of a scam.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to thank the bringer of the bill. This is a discussion we definitely need to have. I've been concentrating on a different bill, so I'm catching up on this. But I'm really wrestling with this issue, and I hope, regardless of what the outcome is today, that we will have an interim topic on this so that those of us who have not completely focused 100% on this will be able to understand more. So I did hear some debate last night outside the chamber about this bill, and I do have some concerns, but I do understand that we need to get this right. And so I'm still struggling with this, but I do hope that we have the continuation of the discussion during the interim. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Landon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Real quickly, I thank you for the great debate. I always learn a great deal from all of my associates here in the room. You know, I'm thinking about these people. It might be a little lady that lives down your street, and you can go home and say, you know, we thought about trying to do something about this, and I'm really sorry that you've gotten 5 different pieces of mail in your mailbox, and people are claiming that this is their address. We know you live here, but we decided not to do anything about that because, you know, what we're really concerned about is we get $100 every time one of those companies come to Wyoming and register as an LLC. So the question was asked a few minutes ago, what is this going to do to eliminate fraud? Well, at least I can go to my constituents and say, we are watching out for you, and we are now requiring an address. Can they give us a false address? Absolutely. We can work on that. Your corporations committee can take that into an interim, we'll continue that conversation. But at least this bill gives us an opportunity to tell our constituents back home, we're trying to do something about this because we care about you. Just think about this. This lady that I just referenced gets 4 or 5 pieces of mail. Somebody finds out that Sunshine and Shadows LLC lives at that address. What about somebody stopping because it says that that's the address for that? And we subject one of our constituents to somebody knocking on the door that they don't even know. For me, I'm going to lean to the side of my constituents, not so much on how many LLCs we get. I care about being a business-friendly state, but I also care about those constituents that we heard about. We had testimony in committee, fellow senators, about the small town where we used to stop and get a malt. 10 or 12 different false claims of addresses in that community. That's crazy. That's not good. I say we do something about this. This bill is not the silver bullet, but it's a great start. Let's keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Landon. Senator Rothfuss, for your
Thank you,
second
Mr. President.
time.
For my second time, Mr. President. Mr. President, we've got a lot of potholes in Laramie, Wyoming. This bill will not solve that problem, but I guess we can pass this bill and I can go home and tell my constituents, well, at least we're trying to do something about those potholes. It's just as related, right? This is the concern I have. We shouldn't just be passing a bill that addresses a problem and fails to solve it, that has negative consequences. And that's what we're doing here. That's what we're saying we're doing here. We all understand the significance of the problem. We've had a long conversation, and there is no way this bill is going to solve any of these 80-year-olds that we've been talking about concerns. It's going to happen just as frequently. Because the bill doesn't address the problem, as the good majority leader pointed out. There are places in statute we should probably take a look at. There are things that we should do. This is not the bill. But Mr. President, what this bill definitely does, is erode the privacy of good actors that for good reasons choose to incorporate in Wyoming and take advantage of our privacy laws. That's true. Our statutes do that now. That is why we're popular. And we're always quick to give up the privacy rights of good actors if there's an opportunity to appear to be helping fight the bad actors. And sometimes we actually are helping fight the bad actors. And those are the trade-offs that we struggle with in this chamber. And Mr. President, we should struggle with those in this chamber because that's sacrificing individual rights for the common good. In this case, with this bill, we are sacrificing those individual rights, and we know confidently it will have no effect on those bad actors or helping them. So the idea that we need to move this forward makes no sense to me. I don't know why we would take that path. I don't know why we would continue the conversation down the hall. Again, I apologize to my good colleagues down the hall, but I don't have confidence that they are going to solve within this title the problem, since it's just moving around pieces within a title that is incapable of solving the problem. Mr. President, what we need to do is be investing in technologies that allow us to do things like zero-knowledge proofs. The concept there is that you can prove identity, you can prove things like ownership, but without disclosing publicly the information. This is technology that's available. That's the kind of thing that we could be looking to that would actually, instead of decreasing the attractiveness of the state of Wyoming, it would make us the most attractive state in the country because we'd be doing things the right way. We'd be affirmatively protecting privacy while simultaneously preventing fraud. That's what we need to do. And the idea, Mr. President, that we would risk the privacy rights of the good actors, a highly successful institution, to appear to be addressing a real problem when we know it won't, is a disingenuous approach to policy that I would discourage this body from adopting.
Mail. Senator Ide, for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to read you a quote from the third president of the United States that would kind of hit on what we're discussing here today. And he said, "I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences attending too much liberty than those attending too small a degree of it." Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Anybody else wish to speak? Senator Craigo, for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just to talk a little bit about the enforcement mechanism, I tend to disagree with a lot of the statements that have been made by previous speakers. If you look at 1728-109, that talks about penalties that can be placed upon the RAs, upon the registered agents. And if you fail to collect the information that you're required to collect under the statute that we are now trying to amend, which is section 107, you can be assessed a civil fine per each company. And remember, the biggest issue back in my part of the world are companies that have thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of clients. And they are under we are not putting any pressure on them to go figure out what is really going on. We show up, we hand them, we say we need this information, and they either say, we're not giving it to you, or we are not required to hold that information. We know who the directors are, and there aren't any. None have been appointed. This would solve that. This actually would figure out who's behind the companies, because they haven't appointed officers or whatnot. The good senator from across the hill talked about us being known for privacy, and we are. And that's a good thing. I believe that. But at some point, we have to balance that out with the needs for protecting our folks back home. I would tell you, no matter the dollar amount, our reputation in this state should not be for sale. I believe this bill does something. I would not be bringing it just to create a conversation. I actually think it gets us one step closer to where we need to be. As I've said multiple times, I'm willing and able to help move the conversation even further through the interim. I actually think it's a very big discussion. I'm not sure this is one you solve in one interim, to be quite honest. I think this is a very big topic. I think the discussion today illustrated that very well. And I am very appreciative of the discussion. I think we all, whatever your take is on this bill, we all want the same thing for Wyoming. I truly believe that. How we get there, we got to keep working, Mr. President, and I just ask for your aye vote on the bill.
Thank you. Great debate, senators. Senate File 82 having been read 3 separate times. The question is, shall the bill pass the Senate? The chief clerk will call the roll.
Third reading roll call, Senate File 82. Anderson?
Aye.
Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper excused. Craigo?
Cooper's back.
Senator Cooper, aye. Craigo? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstader? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? No. Guru? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? No. Love? Aye. McEwen? No. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? No. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 82, 23 aye, 8 no.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, Senate File 82, Duties of Registered Agents Amendments has passed the Senate. Senate File 68, third reading of the Senate file.
Senate File 68, Water Districts Funds for Maintenance Projects, an act relating to irrigation projects sponsored by Water.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief explanation as to why this requires a 2/3 vote. As a reminder, what this bill does is it allows your local irrigation district, conservancy district, watershed improvement district to save funds for future expenditure, replace their infrastructure. Of note for this vote, you also have the opportunity, but not the requirement, to invest with the local government investment pools. That does include equities, and per our state constitution, that does require a 2/3 vote. So nothing changed from the explanation, but that additional note, which I believe I failed to mention on committee of the whole, given our state constitution, that's why you see the 2/3 requirement. That's why you see the constitutional description, because it's a constitutional requirement. We're not changing the constitution or anything like that. This is a constitutional requirement, but the exact same policy considerations that you heard on committee of the whole. So I just thought I'd clarify that.
Thank you. Yes, and I failed to mention that it requires a 2/3 vote. Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, on and for the bill, and just further clarification, you'll remember, I think the good majority floor leader bought a bill a couple of years ago that allows local governments to invest in WildStar 3, which is the equities component. And that's the component, if those entities wanted to do WildStar 1, WildStar 2, that's not a problem. WildStar 3 does allow them to invest in equities. So if they chose to invest in WildStar 3 with those funds, that's what triggers it, but it's still invested by the state treasurer's office. But I would stand on and for. There's no obligation to invest in WildStar 3. They could choose one of the other two options out there. But this does provide an opportunity to start accruing both revenue and interest in those accounts for those large maintenance projects that we know are out there. So on and for the bill.
Thank you. Further discussion? Senate File 68 having been read 3 separate times. The question is, shall the bill pass the Senate? The chief clerk will call the roll.
Third reading roll call, Senate File 68. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper? Aye. Crago? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? Aye. Garou? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 68, 30 aye, 1 no.
Senate File 68 having received the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members elected to the Senate, Senate File 68 has passed the Senate. Madam Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, thank you. Quick announcement before we recess here. The Senate will have a full caucus at 2 o'clock after you have a chance to do your committee meetings. Discuss third reading here on the budget at 2 o'clock in room W110. That's being confirmed, if not likely the room across the hall where we typically caucus. A full Senate caucus at 2 p.m. downstairs, room W10. Shouldn't take very long, but just like to gather up the Senate on the budget. And then, Mr. President, move that we recess until 2:30 p.m.
Okay. Any announcements? Senator Barlow.
Mr. President, could I have a privilege of the floor?
Yes.
So, Mr. President, up above your seat in the Senate is the Student Council from Campbell County High School here visiting our capital. They got to take a tour today, and they're learning about local government with Josh and is spaced out, Ms. Howe, their supervisors. So please welcome Campbell County High School Student Council to the Senate chamber. Jamie, thank you.
Jamie, all right, well, welcome to the Senate, Campbell County High. Some camels roaming around. Senator Anderson.
Mr. President, your favorite committee, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, will meet today upon noon recess in Capitol Extension Room W4, and online. We'll hear 4 bills. We'll try to get through all 4. Senate File 21, Wyoming Stable Token Amendments. Senate File 22, Unincorporated Nonprofit Associations Amendments. Senate File 54, State Banks and SPDI Conversions. Senate File 55, Special Purpose Depository Institution Amendments. Thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Man, oh man. Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your healthiest committee, number 10, Senate Labor, Health, and Social Services, will meet today at 12:30 in room 1 and online to take up Senate File 121, Wyoming Pharmacy Act Amendments.
Thank you. Senator Landon.
Mr. President, your Travel, Recreation, and Wildlife Committee will meet tomorrow morning, Thursday, 8 a.m. in room W4 downstairs. We've got 1 bill left to try to get up here to the Senate with. Senate File 26, Game and Fish Property Tax Exemption Amendments. Again, that's at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Chairman. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Revenue Committee will meet at 12:15. 12:15 in Extension Room W06 to take up Senate File 110, Residential Property Tax Revisions, and Senate File 96, Tobacco Sales and Taxation. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, don't eat too fast. Senator Cooper.
Privilege of the floor, Mr. President.
The floor is yours, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to apologize to the body for being a little late this morning. I had a little incident last night and got to spend most of the night as a guest over across the street at Cheyenne Regional. I just want to thank the few folks in here that reached out to me this morning and helped me a little bit. And I'd really like the folks, thank the folks over at Cheyenne Regional. You talk about a professional, well-run, clean, what a wonderful facility, and we're lucky to have it here in our state of Wyoming.
Thank you. And we're lucky to have you back, Senator Cooper, so
Thank you.
welcome back. Glad you're feeling better. Senator Salazar.
Mr. President, the Senate Appropriations will be meeting tomorrow on the noon recess in E202, that's the old Supreme Court room. We'll be dealing with Senate File 85, the Raven Act. We will also be dealing with House Bill 34, Firefighters Retirement Plan, House Bill 35, Firefighters Paid Leave and Hazard Pay. But Mr. President, your Senate Appropriations will be dealing with as many re-referrals as we can tomorrow. So those will have precedence over any House bills. So as they come to us later today, we'll be working on that tomorrow to get as many as we can through.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone's hard work as we wrap up our Senate files here. Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just real quick, and second reminder of the Joint Ag Forest Health meeting tonight. It's going to be really good. Want to encourage everybody to come 5 to 8 down in the auditorium. So just another reminder. Appreciate anybody that comes. The U.S. Forest Service and the BLM will be there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, any further announcements? Seeing none, you've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. The Senate will stand recessed until 2:30 p.m.